Well, thank you everybody for coming to today's State of the City address. We're changing things up a little bit this year, as you note. In the past, we've always done this over lunch and with the Chamber of Commerce, and that's always worked out well. But we thought we'd change things up a little bit this year, have it in the morning, make it available to more members of the public, and I think you can tell by the turnout today that was a really good idea. So thanks everybody for coming. Before we get started, I would like to recognize a few people who are in the audience today. Mayor Little will recognize the council in a little bit, but from Dakota County, I saw our Commissioner Mayor Liz Holberg just walk in. Thank you. From the Met Council, we have Chair Adam Dunnick and our Representative Wendy Wolf. And from the District 194 School Board, we have board members Judy Kelleher and Bob Erickson. And then from Representative John Klein's office, we have Linda Boudreau. So thank you all for coming here today. So it's no surprise that in 2015 and 2016, the story of Lakeville is one of our continued growth. Mayor Little, a little bit later, will elaborate more on the details of that in both our commercial and our residential sectors. But I wanted to start with this slide, which we think tells a really good story. Over the past year, these companies have either located or expanded their presence here in Lakeville, and we think that's a testament to our strong business climate. And for that, we are extremely grateful to the Lakeville Area Chamber of Commerce and all that they do, including sponsoring today's function. To Tim Roche, the Chamber Board, their staff, and all of their members, thank you all very much for helping us out in that regard. So while new residential and commercial development clearly is the story, we do other things at the city as well. And so I'm going to highlight a little bit of those as well. And I'm going to start out with transportation. And I can tell you that this next year, Lakeville is going to keep up our end of the bargain and making sure that Minnesota only has 2 seasons, and that's winter and road construction. So the first project I'm going to highlight is the reconstruction of Dodd Boulevard. And this project will widen Dodd Road, or Dodd Boulevard, to a 4-lane divided highway between roughly Lakeville North High School and County Road 60. As you can see, this is a very heavily traveled area, and this is really going to increase the capacity of that stretch of road as well as make much needed safety improvements in that area. We thank Dakota County for being the lead in this and partnering with us, and you'll start to see construction in this project in April, and that'll continue throughout the summer. We're also going to continue our renewed efforts on rehabilitating vast sections of our residential streets. In 2015, we took on probably one of the biggest street reconstruction projects in maybe even the state's history in a residential area, in the Foxborough and Highview Heights area. This was 8 miles of road, and it was so big that we even had to break it up into 2 sections. Last year we completed about 4 miles of that, and we're going to continue the second year of that this year with another 4 miles. In addition to that, because that wasn't enough, we're going to add on another 8.5 miles of proposed road reconstruction this year as well. And this area is going to be both residential and commercial in the South Fork Center, the retail area, as well as the neighborhoods around Lake Marion. So if you take in the 4 miles that we're going to add in for the second part of the 15 project and the 8.5 miles this year, that's over 12 miles of streets that we will be reconstructing this year. And you will be hard-pressed to find any city in Minnesota, regardless of size, that is making that kind of investment in the residential streets all at one time. And for that, I think that's a testament to the priority that the City Council has placed on continuing to reinvest in our city's infrastructure. We're also we're beginning to look at 2017 projects, and the main one there is going to be our Holyoke Avenue improvements. We're going to be milling and overlaying Holyoke Avenue basically here from City Hall down to County Road 70. As you know, this area is a tightly packed corridor with sidewalks and on-street parking on both sides, and so we have been working closely already with the Downtown Lakeville Business Association in finding a solution to complete this project that has minimal intrusion, but also does help keep the principle of keeping downtown Lakeville a unique and vibrant area that we all can be proud of and bring our friends and guests to. Moving outside of transportation, one of the most highly rated parts of our government whenever we ask our residents is our park and recreation system, our park and trails. And our recreation offerings really are second to none. And much of this is done through partnerships. And so today I'd like to especially thank the Lakeville Baseball Association for their $150,000 donation to help begin lighting the baseball fields at King Park. What makes this even more impressive is that this is just the first of 3 pledges that they have made for a total of $450,000. And for that, I think they deserve a round of applause. If you drive by there, you'll see that the first set of three fields, those poles are up, and they'll be finished this spring, and so there will be nighttime baseball in Lakeville beginning this summer. So over 20 years ago, the Lakeville community came together and built a one-of-a-kind, unique playground called the Land of Amazement. And over those 20 years, it's been well-loved by generations of parents, grandparents, and kids. And over those 20 years, we've been diligent in maintaining it, but it is time to replace it. And so last year, the council authorized the Land of Amazement 2.0 fundraising plan. And I'm happy to announce that as of this week, we've reached $100,000 in our fundraising, toward our fundraising goal. And that was kickstarted by a $50,000 donation by the Lakeville Rotary Club. So we really do thank everybody who's donated so far. We still have a ways to go. So if you feel like it, you can catch me after this presentation, and I'll be glad to take a donation. You can also conveniently donate online at www.lakevillemn.gov. And then lastly, our most recent Park and Rec Master Plan called for the development of unique destination-type park facilities. And so in that spirit, the council recently authorized the establishment of our first off-leash dog park. And that's going to be at another one of our unique facilities, Ritter Farm Park. That's going to be a great addition. It's something that we hear a lot about. People really enjoy taking their dogs there, and that's going to be a great addition to Ritter Farm. And I would be remiss if I didn't highlight our new director for our Park and Recreation Department, John Hennon. John, while this is a new position to him, he's not a new face to Lakeville. He's been with us for 27 years, and so we are very thankful that he's agreed to take that on, John, and we know he's going to do a great job in that position. So public safety remains job number one for any city, and that's no different here in Lakeville. And so there's a few areas I'd like to highlight. You know, everybody loves a good dog story, so we had to throw a dog picture in there. Unfortunately, Zeus, our canine officer since 2010, has had some health issues, and he had to retire. But he was a great advocate and a great officer for us. He had to retire. We are adding a new one, and so you'll be seeing that dog here shortly. I'm sure he'll be making his rounds to National Night Out and block parties and things like that. So they usually have a pretty good presence on Facebook and Twitter too. So if you're not following us on those accounts, please do that. A focus of Chief Jeff Long and his department over the past year has been stepped up DUI enforcement. In 2015, we had 187 DUI arrests, and that sounds like a lot, and it is. But we recently added a full-time officer whose sole purpose is DUI enforcement, and this officer is 100% grant funded. And with that new position, over the first 3 months of 2016, we've seen a 25% increase in DUI arrest. In fact, several of our officers have received awards and commendations for their efforts, including Officer Nick Stevens, who received an honorary hockey stick for completing his second hat trick. And a hat trick in this regard is making 3 DUI arrests in one shift. And he's done that twice now. And if any of you have ever gone along on a police ride along, you know how much time and effort it takes to make an arrest, to book that person, to process them, and to do that 3 times in one shift just tells you that problem that we have in this regards. And we're really appreciative of Chief Long and his department for taking on the efforts to help address this issue. So, along with police, we have our fire department, which we're very proud of. We are extremely lucky to have this dedicated group of men and women who serve us every day. Last year, we implemented what we're calling duty crews, and Lakeville is no different than any other department in the state, especially when you're using a paid-on-call or volunteer system. Daytime coverage was really hard to get people to respond to. So now we have our current or our active officers or firefighters staff the stations during the day. Since October 2015, when we implemented that program, they've responded to 160 calls, and their average response time for those calls is 3.5 minutes. And just as a reference, our average time is 8 minutes. So you can tell that, and we know when you call 911, seconds, much less minutes, matter. And so having that daytime presence has really been a great addition to our fire department. And so finally, before I turn it over to Mayor Little, I'd be remiss if I did not recognize a few people who, even though they mostly work behind the scenes, are going to be sorely missed here in the coming months. So Danny Barth, our IT manager, has 33 years of service. Cindy Justin, our human resources manager, 29 years of service. Becky Kiergaard, our Senior Administrative Assistant in Building Inspections, has 17 years of service. And Judy Hawkins, our Executive Administrative Assistant, has only been here for 37 years. They all announced their retirements. And so when they leave City Hall in the coming months, they're going to take 116 years of service with them out the door. So please join me in thanking them for their century-plus of service to the city. So it's now my pleasure to introduce Mayor Matt Little, and it's just a little background. Mayor Little was first elected to the City Council in 2010, and then he was elected mayor in 2012 and re-elected in 2014. And as many of you know, he's announced that he will not be seeking re-election as mayor. And so Mayor Little, on behalf of the staff of the City of Lakeville, we thank you for your service and wish you the best of luck in your next endeavors. And ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mayor Matt Little.
Good morning. Before I begin, I have a number of people to thank. First, I want to thank Justin Miller for his excellent report and gracious introduction, and for answering all my questions right up until the last minute of this speech. I also want to thank our city staff for all the data that's used in Justin's report and my speech. And a big thank you to our city council members, Councilmember Anderson, LeBeau, Davis, and Swecker for their hard work throughout the year. Thanks also to the Chamber for sponsoring and hosting this event every year. It's always a great event that people enjoy. And finally, thanks to all of you for coming today to share in Lakeville's future. The state of Lakeville, our fair city, is strong. In fact, over the past 3.5 years, Lakeville has entered a period of record-breaking growth and development. Now, I could just fill this speech with statistics about Lakeville's prosperity. And don't worry, this speech will have plenty of data for all you data geeks out there like myself. But it's important to remember this exceptional growth has not happened by accident and has not been matched by neighboring cities. Our exceptional growth is a direct result of the hard work and foresight of the people in this room and countless others throughout Lakeville. When I'm asked how Lakeville has achieved such prosperity, I always say the same thing. Lakeville is an exceptional place because its people are exceptional. So today I will break with my traditional method of hitting the statistical highlights and instead focus on our people, the exceptional people who have created Lakeville's current prosperity and happiness. Since becoming mayor in 2013, it has been my good fortune and great pleasure to work with many exceptional people all across our city. People who understand that solutions are more important than dogma, and working together is more important than party labels. After all, politics is just people. Here in Lakeville, we've been working to create a truly diversified local economy with high-skill, high-quality jobs, outstanding schools, efficient and responsive city services, and safe, welcoming neighborhoods. And I'm happy to report that over the past 3.5 years, we have exceeded every single one of those goals. We did that by having a diverse array of exceptional people. A diversified local economy requires a diversified local community. We need people with wide-ranging talents and passions. We need people who are builders, investors, financiers, and people who can serve, teach, and sell. So today we will meet some of Lakeville's exceptional citizens, people who create, people who innovate, and people who serve. So last year I mentioned the Paling brothers, Lakeville North's first family of hockey, to help set our theme. This year, a former Lakeville North athlete will point the way. After all, if we're talking about exceptional people in Lakeville in 2016, we certainly can't forget Rachel Bannum. When Rachel Bannum scored 60 points in one basketball game for the University of Minnesota, and then went on to score 40 points in each of her next 4 games, she became the consensus choice for Big Ten Player of the Year. Watching her play is like watching a force of nature, fast, focused, and nearly unstoppable. When the Pioneer Press asked Rachel Bannum how she started her amazing run, this is what she said. As I had bigger games, I started to surprise myself and realized the sky's the limit. There's a lot more I can reach. So I don't think any of us here can claim something like a 60-point NCAA game. And honestly, I'm not sure I could score 60 points if no one was guarding me, much less for that matter if I was just alone by myself on the court. It's not going to happen. But we can all appreciate her attitude. As challenges increase, so does Rachel's performance. And fortunately, there are a lot of people in Lakeville with that same attitude. For example, given Lakeville's outstanding development statistics over the past few years, we might reasonably expect the numbers couldn't go any higher. But it turns out, Rachel was right. There's a lot more we can reach. In fact, for the third year in a row, Lakeville had the highest number of single-family residential permits of any city in the entire state of Minnesota. That's 420 permits this year, 348 permits last year, and 398 permits in 2013. So in dollars, that's over $140 million in additional residential valuation this year alone, and over $400 million in the last 3 years. And apparently, the best is yet to come. Because believe it or not, next year looks even better. We already have 737 single-family lots platted in 2016, a 72% increase over last year. Now, an envious outsider from far away, perhaps someplace like Eagan, might argue that this is only a result of Minnesota's overall economic advance. But there are good reasons why Lakeville is growing faster than everyone else. Streamlined zoning, cooperative platting procedures, schools, parks, neighborhoods, and as you can tell, just plain enthusiasm. As Brian Sattler, a recent Lakeville graduate, tweeted, "I swear, every time I come back to Lakeville, there are 100 new houses." Or as a recent transplant from Minneapolis told me, "My husband and I moved here to raise our children in Lakeville." Now, that's a conversation I've had with folks 100 times in the last year. People don't just move here for the place. They move here for the people. This is where families want to raise their kids. But housing isn't the only thing that people in Lakeville are creating. In fact, our commercial development permits posted an even bigger increase than our residential permits. This year, the commercial permit valuations more than tripled last year's level, rising from 13.7 million to over 45 million. That's Lakeville's highest level in history. Now, these numbers speak for themselves, but if I needed to trump them up, I'd say they were huge. Something like that. Now, driving around our city, these stats are not too hard to believe. New businesses are literally springing up out of the ground. Businesses across every type of industry and service, from the new Alina Medical Clinic to the new Super America, and from the new Center for Diagnostic Imaging to the new Goddard School for Early Development. And the pipeline is already full of projects for next year, including large permit valuations such as the 92,000 square foot Hy-Vee that's under construction, or the new Candlewood Suites Hotel. With smaller developments, enthusiasm was the theme once again. At the new Topper's Pizza, customers waited all night for opening day. And I thought Councilmember Doug Anderson captured it well at the event when he said this: "I've been involved in promoting downtown for a very long time, and I've never seen anyone camp out for the opening of a business." But Lakeville has good reasons to be enthusiastic. All these new businesses also create many good new jobs, increasing Lakeville's total number to 16,793. For the record, that is another all-time record for jobs in Lakeville. And that understandably caused the unemployment rate to fall again, down to only 2.7% this year, a level which most of the country can only envy. But again, it's good to remember, such growth in jobs and businesses didn't happen by accident. Many exceptional business people worked long hours to create these jobs and bring these industries to Lakeville. Likewise, many exceptional city staff worked hard to secure the kind of incentives needed to draw these companies here. City Hall and the Chamber organized many business tours, including those to Boise Cascade, Hearthside Foods, Edney Distributing, Image Trend, and the Aircraft Resource Center. At the same time, the city expanded our marketing efforts, which now includes the MinCar Expo, event sponsorships, Minnesota marketing partnerships, and even our own manufacturers appreciation event. But perhaps the city's most extensive business work involved our top 5 city-state joint incentive programs. These programs, which offer state and city tax incentives for qualifying developments, generated over $39 million in development activity, retained 779 jobs, and created 327 new jobs right here in our city of Lakeville. It's worth pausing to note, just for a minute, that is over a 10-to-1 return. For every $1 we invested by the city, it returned $10 in commercial investment in Lakeville. Many of our best developments, however, don't involve creating something from nothing. Sometimes the best way to create is to innovate. Lakeville's innovators have the imagination to take something old and make it better, different, or new. Over the past 3.5 years, Lakeville's added over 67 new businesses, ranging from solar panels and imaging devices to Sweet Treasures cakes, and I know we're all looking forward to the opening of Angry Inch Brewery and the Lakeville Brewing Company. So 5 years ago, I visited Brian Bartz, who's the owner of Mendel, which is a medical device manufacturer. I remember him showing me his walleye tank very vividly, which Minnesota allows for educational purposes. But I also remember being impressed by the process and reach of their products. When I returned to break ground for their expansion, I was once again amazed by how their company continually innovated, both in terms of their product development and business practices. Turning to a completely different industry, I had the opportunity to meet Ann and Noel Thompson, the owners of Sonnet Montessori, before they completed construction. Their passion for teaching in rigorous and creative ways was obvious within minutes. And that impression was later confirmed when I met for coffee with a parent whose children attend the Sonnet school. He couldn't say enough kind words about the Thompsons and their Montessori school. And Ann Thompson feels the same way about the parents and citizens of Lakeville. In an email to staff and I, Ann wrote, "Without your support, we wouldn't have been able to come this far." So not all innovation begins voluntarily. As most of you know, Marty Ritchie and Lisa Caulfield, owners of the Heavy Metal Grill, experienced a major fire destroying their food truck and substantially damaging their home. Undeterred, they continued to put their energies behind the opening of the restaurant in downtown. Not only did Marty and Lisa rise to this challenge, they even joke about it, maybe hoping for more booming business or explosive profits at their new restaurant. I'll bet we can all think of many examples of exceptional people in Lakeville who have innovated through hardship or relied on pure creativity to make Lakeville a stronger, more vibrant community. Finally, Lakeville is blessed with exceptional people who have devoted themselves to serving others. They bind our community together through self-sacrifice, transcendent values, and a commitment to help us all live better lives. We can find exceptional servants in many places, in Lakeville schools and churches, in our nonprofits and in City Hall, in our fire stations and police squads, tending public parks and filling potholes, coaching Little League, or volunteering at the food shelf, and many, many more. These people and these groups are the ties that bind our city together, working for the higher good of our community. As I mentioned, some of this work is done through City Hall by excellent public servants that work tirelessly to squeeze every ounce of value from our tax dollars. And you don't just have to take my word for that. Our per capita tax rate is lower than that in Eagan, Apple Valley, Burnsville, or that city called Edina. In fact, Lakeville's tax rate is the lowest of any large city in Dakota County and one of the lowest in the state. And yet, thanks to our proactive staff, Lakeville receives exceptionally responsive services. Now, one small example of this happened last week. Golden Ridge Stables sent me a message on Twitter saying their road needed some work. And later that afternoon, Public Works Director Chris Petrie told me our staff were already on it, and they sent out a crew and fixed the road that same day. It is hard to be more responsive to the public needs than same-day service. Okay, so I know it's not possible to fill every pothole the day it appears. But I tell you, we are sure trying. Last year alone, our work crews used 613 tons of bituminous patch on our roads. That's about 150 truckloads of pothole-filling goodness. But the most important part of improving our roads and infrastructure isn't reacting after the damage is done. The most important thing is to be proactive and maintain infrastructure before damage appears. That's why Lakeville committed itself over 3 years ago to a systematic road repair and replacement plan. Since 2013, we have reconstructed 18.25 miles of roads and laid almost 21 miles of new streets in Lakeville. Not only do these roads add value for our businesses and citizens, they will save us huge amounts of money in the long run. However, as important as our public works are, and as exciting as it would be to talk about infrastructure all day, when we think of exceptional service, most of us think about people working outside of City Hall. And no one has served Lakeville's youth longer than Apple Jack, our own Jack Strummer. This year we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the Apple Jack Invitational Tournament, which has become one of the largest and most competitive cross-country tournaments in Minnesota. Jack Strummer coached Lakeville teams for many decades and originally carved the Applejack tournament course by hand from the bramble of an old apple orchard. Jack, his wife, and his assistant coach, Dave Page, not only ran the entire event, they also hand-pressed apple juice for every runner as they crossed the finish line. Jack was also a leader in opening the sport of cross-country to young women. In the early 1970s, his own daughter asked why her female friends couldn't run the Applejack race. Jack couldn't think of a good reason, and so he opened the race to young women across the state. Since that time, the sport has become open to women at all levels, and thousands of young women have competed in the Applejack Invitational. Of course, Lakeville is home to many other exceptional coaches, teachers, and staff supporting our young people. Lisa Holeen, for example, was a special ed teacher who then became a school counselor at Lakeville North and now serves as a student support specialist for the district. After several tragic student deaths, Lisa helped hundreds of families and kids come to terms with their grief and eventually return their lives at school with a sense of hope. Lisa also leads our school's work on teen mental health, drug abuse, and alcoholism. Lisa helps to lead the PATH Coalition, which brings together schools, community, and city representatives to educate and counsel teens suffering with mental health and chemical dependency issues. She's played a crucial role helping many families find their way through addiction and depression to healthier, happier futures. Lisa Holeen and Jack Strummer represent some of the best Lakeville has to offer. But they are only two examples of Lakeville's exceptional tradition of service. Our community has hundreds of people like Lisa and Jack who knit the city together, lift us higher, and call us to our better natures. In 2015, Lakeville set new all-time records in housing, business, and job growth. And over the past 3.5 years, Lakeville has almost tripled its commercial permits, cut its unemployment rate by almost half, and reached historically high levels of local employment. We've done all that by embracing a pragmatic approach that blends the best of City Hall with the best of our businesses and the best from the wider community. In short, pragmatism is good politics, good policy, and good business. But all these amazing statistics must never obscure the real source of Lakeville's success, our exceptional people. This room is filled with people working for Lakeville's future. All across our city, we are blessed with exceptional people who create, innovate, and serve. Taken all together, Lakeville's future has never looked brighter. Because as the games become bigger, the stakes become higher, and competition more fierce, Lakeville has proven ready to rise to the challenge. Like Rachel Bannum, for Lakeville, the sky's the limit. Thank you for listening and for all your good work.